It's a week for rivals in Breakaway Football League. Can the Minotaurs at the Sharks live up to the old AFC East Dolphins-Bills shootouts? And speaking of shootouts, will the gunslingers use the Stallions for target practice, or just end up riding shotgun? Can the Vaqueros lasso the Mahlers? Will the Vultures pick the Rhinos clean? Can the Bolts shock the Bobcats? And will the Hydra capture the lightning in a bottle? Don't lose your heads! BFL Power Sweep starts now! And hello everybody, I am Art Franz here on week 1 of the Breakaway Football League, a new league based on the tabletop game Breakaway Football. Happy to have you with us, and with me as always is our co-host Greg Pierce.
Thanks, Art. It's always a pleasure to be here in the studio.
Each week I will recap the highlights of league play, and Greg will analyze the games and break down team strategies. We hope you enjoy the show. Breakaway Football is a 1 to 4 player board game where you are the head coach controlling your team's strategy. There are 22 teams, most based on iconic single seasons of historic pro franchises. Greg, what makes Breakaway Football so different?
Well, there are so many things that make it special. So unlike most football sims, there are no players to manage, no dice to roll, and no charts to consult. You can play the game heads up with just the cards. Also, to speed up the play, the field is divided into 5-yard chunks. All teams feature unique offensive, defensive play cards, as well as their own special mechanisms. No two teams are exactly the same. In fact, most of the teams are wildly different from each other.
That brings us to the league itself. 12 intrepid coaches have chosen their favorite franchises to play 12 weeks of intense football action. The top 2 teams in each conference face off in their conference championships, with the winners of those playing in the Breakaway Bowl.
That's right, Art. And this year we're going to get a lot of compelling matchups. We're going to get a chance to see the Bengals and the 49ers Super Bowl all over again. Jim Kelly versus Dan Marino in their prime. We're also going to get a replay of the Cowboys versus Bills Super Bowl. The '85 Bears get a chance to redeem their sole loss to the Miami Dolphins. We're also going to get versions of the Epic in Miami, as well as the Bengals Chargers Freezer Bowl.
A ton of action to cover, so let's get to the games. In a replay of an NFC East rivalry, the Vaqueros, inspired by the 1993 Cowboys dynasty, takes on the Mahlers, based on the Washington, D.C. teams in the early 80s with Riggins and the Hogs. Both teams found a rhythm early, with the Mahlers stretched out to a 31-17 lead in the fourth quarter when the Vaqueros scored a late touchdown to make it 31-24 with under 8 minutes to play. A defensive stop set up a punt, and the Vaqueros again drove down, scoring a touchdown with just 1 minute left. They go for 2, and they get it on the ground with Emmitt Smith, 32-31. How about them Vaqueros? But the Mahlers return the kick to the 45-yard line and use all 3 timeouts to get the ball deep into Vaqueros territory. Mark Mosley trots out to kick the chip shot field goal, and it's good! The late surge works. Mahlers win 34-32 in a tense back-and-forth game. Greg, how are the Mahlers able to get down the field with so little time?
Good clock management is really the key to winning in this game. It really separates the great coaches from the scrubs. But there is no traditional clock in Breakaway Football. Time is measured by the cards you have left in your hand. Since each offensive card represents 1 minute of game clock, when you see your hand shrinking, you really know that you're running out of time. Now, teams can use timeouts to retrieve those discarded offensive cards back into their hand. The Mahlers in this case were able to run their best plays late in the game because of their timeouts.
Exciting last-minute finishes are fairly common in Breakaway Football. Will we see another one? Bolts, Bobcats, coming up next. Breakaway Football is brought to you by Uplink Underground Games. Bolts, based on the 1980 San Diego Chargers facing off against the Bobcats, based on the 1988 Cincinnati Bengals. Bolts have an explosive offense, but they run into trouble sometimes, don't they, Greg?
Yeah, the biggest issue with the Bolts is that they have real ball security issues. They turn the ball over quite a bit. Running or passing doesn't really matter. They cough it up at least 1 or 2 times every game.
They actually turned the ball over 5 times in this game. The Bolts had an early stumble as the kickoff return was a fumble. Multiple turnovers in their own territory coming from their shock and awe mechanism. Still, somehow, they're in it late, able to force overtime, tied at 17. The Bobcats won the toss and kicked the field goal. The new overtime rules allow the Bolts a chance on offense, and they score on a big TD pass to Charlie Joyner. Bolts win in a wild one, 23-20. Greg, the Bobcats seemed to struggle to put this game away, didn't they?
One of the things that makes the Bobcats so exciting, Art, is their attack offense. They can use that no-huddle offense in a specific way in the game to limit the defenses that their opponent can call. Now, it wasn't very effective today because they were on the road, but they do a lot better when they're in their home stadium. That rematch in Week 12 will be very interesting.
And cold, since the north winds blow fiercest in late-season games. Game of the week, Gunslingers hosting the Stallions at Yosemite Sam Hill Stadium. First quarter, Stallions up 3-0. Gunslingers QB Warren Moon fires a shot to Ernest Givens, who breaks into the clear, and they're not gonna get him! 30 yards to pay dirt! The extra point by Del Greco is no good. Remember that. Gunslingers up 6-3. Stallions stall out and punt, and the Gunslingers make them pay with a breakaway draw versus the zone. And it's Alonzo Highsmith sprinting downfield, finally pulled down from behind at the 10-yard line. 2 plays later, Highsmith, sweep, touchdown, Gunslingers, up 13-3. Stallions go 3 and out again, but on the ensuing drive, the Gunslingers run up the middle, and it's a fumble! Stallions recover at the 20. 1 play later, touchdown! Manning to Dallas Clark over the top of the defense, and just like that, it's 13-10. Gunslingers manage a field goal at the buzzer to make it 16-10. Third quarter, Moon airs it out deep to Haywood Jeffries, 40 yards! Gunslingers, 4th and goal, they're going for it, sweep around the corner for a touchdown! Gunslingers in control now, up 23-10, but don't count out the Stallions. Going long, complete to the 20. Later, 3rd down, and the pass is picked off, but the challenge flag is out. The QB's knee was down before he released the ball. No pick! Stallions settle for a field goal, 23-13. Stallions D gets stout in the 4th quarter and forces a punt. Stallions mount a punishing 8-minute drive using Peyton's Omaha, and score a touchdown short pass to Marvin Harrison. 5 minutes left in regulation, Stallions down 23-20. Gunslingers run the draw to kill the clock, and he's off to the races down the sideline, and he coughs it up. The ball pops free near midfield. Stallions recover. What in tarnation is happening at the Sam Hill? 4 minutes to play. Stallions grind it out down to the 5 with 1 play left. Field goal is good. We're going to overtime. Stallions win the toss and methodically drive for the game winner. Touchdown pass to Marvin Harrison. 29-23 Stallions. A dramatic come-from-behind win for the 2006 World Champs, and a disappointing end for the Gunslingers. But that's what we've come to expect, isn't that right, Greg?
That's right, Art. The Gunslingers are inspired by the '92 Oilers, a team that notoriously blew a 32-point lead in the playoffs. Now, in football speak, this is a term that we know as falconing. While this won't happen in every game, the Gunslingers' mechanisms work against them in the second half. They have a very strong offense, and they have a very competent defense. But if the coaches get careless or just unlucky, they can certainly blow a game in the second half.
The Lightning are the only team in the league not based on an historic franchise, instead built to model a standard pro-style offense. The Hydra, however, are the Joe Montana-era 49ers. 2 similar styles, and early on it was a slugfest. 3-0 Lightning first half and some tough defense on display as the Hydra force a safety. Greg, tell us what happened.
With the Lightning backed up on their own 5, there was a real risk of a safety if they did anything wrong. You had to be really careful here. The 3-value run met a 3-value defense, and the game day card showed gang tackle -1. And that play was just gobbled up in the end zone. 2 points Hydra.
It's 3-2 for a while until the Lightning hit a long pass for a touchdown. Greg, how'd they get that open?
Well, this is a great example of a textbook offensive breakaway. Now that's when a defensive play loses to the offensive call. Press coverage has corners bumping at the line, and the receiver simply got open, ran up the sideline for an easy pitch and catch.
Hydra answer with a field goal to make it 10-5. Hydra trying to overtake fumble not once but twice on offense breakaways. Now late 4th quarter, Hydra going forward on 4th down from the Lightning 25 with 3 minutes to play, and the pass is knocked down incomplete. Lightning trying to kill the clock. actually break off a 65-yard breakaway run to seal the victory. 10-5, the final score. And Greg, the Hydra seemed off their game today. What happened to the Hydra?
That's right, Art. The Hydra are having a really hard time getting their mechanisms going. They couldn't score on the scripted drive, which unlocks their yards after catch ability. And because of that, they missed their final drive opportunities in both halves.
A tough time of it indeed. Hats off to the Lightning for keeping the Hydra offense in check. When we return, Rhinos, Vultures, after the break. To learn more about Breakaway Football, visit the Uplink Underground website at www.uplinkunderground.com. A rivalry known in some circles as the Bruiser Bowl, the Rhinos, based on the 1985 Chicago Bears, take on the Vultures, based on the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. Both teams feature strong running and world-class defense. Greg, what sets them apart?
These are two really different teams. The Rhinos feature a more wide-open passing game. Their quarterbacks are less accurate, but their overall value of their passing plays is higher, making it more likely they can move the ball in the air. The Vultures, on the other hand, have a very predictable kind of offense, which tends to make them easier to stop as the game wears on. The Vultures do, however, have the best statistical defense in the league, so they can win a game almost solely on defense, field position, and turnovers.
On paper, a solid, low-scoring matchup, but that's why they play the games. Defense reigned supreme early on as the first 3 possessions were 3 and outs. Then the Rhinos broke a 25-yard speed option to sweetness for a 7-0 lead early second quarter. Late half, Rhinos with a 4th and 1 near midfield play it safe and punt, only to see it return 95 yards for a Vulture touchdown. Next drive, McMahon takes the Rhinos the length of the field in just 3 plays, the last one a touchdown from 25 yards out, 14-7 Rhinos at half.
That's one of the things you really have to watch with the Rhinos' passing game. It's really feast or famine.
Third quarter, Rhinos defense takes over, flipping the field position and creating a short field for an easy field goal to make it 17-7. That's when it got ugly for the Vultures in the fourth quarter, where they turned the ball over on 3 consecutive drives. All Rhinos in the fourth quarter. The final score, Rhinos 31, Vultures 7. Our late game has the Minotaurs, based on the 1990 Buffalo Bills, visiting the Sharks, based on the 1984 Miami Dolphins, an old-school AFC East shootout. No highlights for this one, but the Minotaurs punch the Sharks in the nose, come out with the win 31-20.
I love this matchup. The Minotaurs have that deadly no-huddle offense, and that gives them free yardage on untimed downs. It's so tough to get these guys off the field. But the Sharks feature elite receivers and a quarterback with quick release. This matchup is always full of offense.
Now it's time for our takeaways for the week. For me, it was the Bolts, coming away with a victory after turning the ball over 5 times in the game. Greg, I understand the Vultures were on your list this week.
The Vultures play close games very well, but they're not a come-from-behind team. If they fall behind, they have a really tough time trying to push the ball upfield quickly. The Vultures needed to play field position, tough defense, and create turnovers in order to win these games. That offense is really going to take over a game.
Some great action heading your way in future weeks, to be sure. That's our show. We'll be coming back to you with a new episode in Week 6, and then once again to host our post-season special to cover all the playoff and championship game action. Expect some weather to factor in.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Football weather.
For more on Breakaway Football, check out the Board Game Geek page for reviews, videos, and more. Look for the physical game on sale at the GameCrafter website, or visit Uplink Underground Games website for solo AI, expansions, and much more. We hope you enjoyed this episode of BFL Power Sweep from my co-host Greg Pierce. I'm Art Franz. See you next time across the table on BFL Power Sweep.